Let's go.
Unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted Show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
What's going on, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls? Wow, we are here for a special live broadcast of the Raw and Unscripted Show. Normally, we're Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but right now it is Friday at 10:30 Pacific Standard Time, and we've got a special guest for you here in a second. So I just encourage you guys, wherever you are in the world, take an opportunity to really take heart to this little conversation. It's not going to be an hour-long show like we normally do. It's going to be short and sweet, but to the point. And the whole point of this opportunity is for us all to continue to look at our past, present, and our future in ways that we are able to identify. Perhaps there's roadblocks or things or challenges we've blocked in our past, traumatic experiences that we've had in our past that we're allowing to hold us back, maybe subconsciously or maybe consciously. And so what we're going to be talking about today is this beautiful book that was written by my amazing friend. This book I have in my hand, it's called Choose Joy. Make sure I say it right. Choose Joy, A Survivor's Guide for Hope, written by the beautiful and amazing Nance. And I just want to give you an idea of what I thought of the book. Admittedly, I'm always 100% transparent with you guys. I read probably about 40% of the book and was just absolutely blown away. You guys know I don't lie. I don't blow up smoke up anybody's skirt. So I'm going to read to you what I wrote as the testimonial for this book, because I believe every single word of it. And I took great care and great consideration to write this. So I'm going to read this to you, and then I'm going to introduce Nance, and we're going to talk about this phenomenal book that's going to help you in your life, no matter what has happened in your life. And I'm not a big fan of reading, so bear with me. So I wrote, Choose Joy, A Survivor's Guide for Hope is more than a book. It is a roadmap to personal transformation. Nancy's courage and fierce determination shine through every page as she lays out the tools you need to shift from surviving to thriving. Right? How many of you guys out there are surviving right now? If life's hardships have left you feeling stuck or overwhelmed, this book will remind you of your inner strength. Nancy doesn't just share her story, which is fucking, oh my God. She hands you the blueprint for breaking free from the grip of trauma and embracing the future full of purpose and joy. How would you like to have a little bit more joy in your life? With her heartfelt wisdom and actionable strategies, you will feel empowered to release the past, take charge of your healing, and rediscover your true potential. You guys have a lot of fucking potential out there. This isn't just a read it. It's an invitation for a whole new way of living. How do you guys like that? And if you're watching, you're obviously watching. The link to purchase the book is in the comments. And let's please welcome the incredible Nancy Nance here to the special live broadcast of the Raw and Unscripted Show. Hi, Nancy.
Hi. Oh my gosh. I just love listening to the present of what was once never a possibility until I decided to pull up my bootstraps and just stop with the BS, the backwards scenario, the BS backwards scenario, because we look to our past to find mistakes. And then we
reasons
script
and
our
excuses.
Future. Yeah. And I mean, how many of us have done that?
Probably every single person in this world.
Yeah. And then we whine, and then we add wine and a little bit of cheese until we just can't stand the stench of our own lies.
Amen. So who is Nancy? Not what is Nancy, but who is Nancy? Tell us who Nancy is, and then a little bit of your story, and then we're going to dive into the book.
I'm a mom who has 4 beautiful sons. I love my boys. I love my grandchildren. And I'm a card-carrying member of the Club of Mothers Who Has Lost a Child. Add to that the struggles of living a life in the battered woman syndrome and all of that to a place of becoming an overcomer. I could have succumbed to all of that, and I did for a while. To say I didn't is to forget part of my story. So becoming a specialist, an expert in grief and trauma began with my own. And I think that that's very, very important to understand yourself, to heal yourself, and then move forward. We can certify in a lot of things. We can get lots and lots of beautiful certifications, master degree of. I'm a master in the story of life. Street smart's a lot more than, and I mean, I've read a lot of books, yet it is walking the streets of my own journey to clean up the mess.
And this what I read here, and I knew parts of your story, but to see here and read it in print and to be like, holy fuck, holy fuck, holy fuck, holy fuck, holy fuck, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. Wow. Wow. We never compare our stories or compare our traumas, but I sit there and I look back on my life and I'm like, okay, that was a cakewalk compared to what you experienced. So for people who are not familiar with Nancy Nance, what was probably maybe one or two of the lowest points in your journey? And what was it in those points that got you to become the beautiful, amazing person that you are today?
Ooh, some of the lowest points in my journey were being on the dock after Emily died and seeing the blood pool around her. It was impossible. It was that this isn't real moment. And then to reach down and touch her, 10-year-old little tiny body, and to not feel the warmth anymore. Oh, wow. And then in the moment realizing that my son was alive. Where is Jarrett? Where is Jarrett? You know, that was a big moment for me. And then walking the path in a very different insight as to what death was. Not every parent feels the same way or sees death through the same eyes. That was a tough one. There's a lot of marriages that struggle after the loss of a child, and mine did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In what ways?
Well, I focused on the rest of my life being a legacy and a creation of what I wanted to be remembered for in a very positive way. The eulogy of life. I've shared that experience with a lot of people. When you write your eulogy, man, here lies Nance, a miserable bitch who couldn't get over it. Right? Like, oh my God, that's not what I want. I don't want my grandchildren to remember me for being that cranky old, no.
And that's why in the title you put choosing joy, because everything really is a choice, right? There's a choice to be a victim of the situation, which, in most people's eyes, sure, absolutely. You lost your daughter. It's okay that you go to drugs and alcohol and whatever else it might be to numb the pain and to avoid life. But in this title, you say choose. You say choose joy. So maybe somebody hasn't lost a child, but they've experienced traumatic experiences. Who is this book for? I mean, who is this guide for? And what is it? What is some of the things that they're going to get out of this?
It's for anybody who's lost something in their life. We lose love. We lose people. We lose that imaginary life of what it's all going to be. I mean, think back to when you were 18 years old and you came out of high school and maybe you had a plan and then that plan didn't work and you're 30. I mean, I got my first tattoo when I was 30 because it was a mark on my body to say, wow, this is not the way it's supposed to be. I want more from life. I mean, we can lose a job. We can lose a marriage. Some of us have lost our homes.
Yeah.
Whether that's been part of a natural disaster or just a freak of fortune. And what I mean by a freak of fortune is when there's two people in a family or one person in a family and you suddenly cannot make a living anymore, what do you do? How do you keep on going? There's a lot of strategies in the memoir. There's definitely a lot of strategies. They're the ones that worked for me. Options.
And how did your husband, partner fare out of the same particular situation? Were you married at the time? Was he in the picture? How has he fared and what choices did he perhaps make?
We were married for about another year after Emily passed. I still remember when he said to me in the hot tub, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And I thought, well, no shit, Sherlock, right? Like, and then, and in that moment, I'm like, wow, that is not a healthy response. Like, it's just not a healthy response. And we went on to create different relationships in our life. Very different, very different. We had different upbringings and different ways of digesting trauma in our lives, right? Like, how do you
Mhm.
digest trauma? What do you do to wash the trauma down? Or do you take the trauma out and look at it? So we've both gone through recovery differently. And I can speak more to my steps than his, because, man, I
What-
remember going through the 12 steps like 5 times, over and
Wow.
over and over, like every possible version of them. And then when I found the Reiki principles, and I'm like, damn, that's the 12 steps. Like, how is it possible that there's so many different parts of the entire human race that speaks of, just for today, I am free of anger, I am free of worry? Those are the Reiki principles? Nah, that's AA. And when we stop arguing about it and we just get on with the healing, it's a lot easier.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So how did you have to change your self-talk? I talk a lot about self-talk and the way we talk to ourselves. And I can hear people watching this and listening to this going, yeah, but I just can't get out of my own way. I just can't seem to find a way to start. I just can't see. I feel guilty. And I've heard that so many times through people who have survived something. I've helped people survive car accidents, and why me? Why me? Why was it me? How do you help somebody who's listening to this right now start to make those initial steps to be able to find love for themselves, release maybe some of that guilt that, oh, if I'd only done this, if I'd only said, no, we're not going to get on the Sea-Doo today, if I've only said this, then Emily would still be here. Because I've heard so many people blame that and they feel like they don't deserve to go on. They have that survivor's guilt. What do you say to people in those situations?
I needed to heal so that I could teach my children how to heal, to teach my sons how to heal. I knew that if I kept on numbing and kept on being angry, that they would see that and continue that behavior. We've got generational trauma. My
Yeah.
father posted today about the number of decades that he has been clean and sober. My brothers, my two stepbrothers, clean and sober, like it's over and over and over. And yet we don't get clean and sober in one jump, nor do we recover from grief in one jump. Every year it changes. That doesn't mean easier. Sometimes it's that 5-year hit when you start counting how old they would have been.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for disaster. I don't count how old Emily would be. I try to live my life as though she's looking through my eyes.
Wow, that's beautiful. And what you're talking about, Nancy, is you have said so eloquently, what I try to teach people is when you have a big enough why, when you have a big enough why, you have a big enough how. And you took that pain and that misery and everything else, and you channeled that and said, okay, listen, what can I do to be a beacon? What can I do to be an example for my kids? What can I do to use this as an opportunity for me to bring more love and compassion and healing to this world? My question to you, given your situation, is why this? Why now? What was the precipice of saying, okay, I need to write this book now, and people need to read it right now?
It was July 1st, which was Canada Day, a year and a half ago ish. And Canada Day is like Independence Day. I look at both of the days, they're close, July 1, July 4. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, if I want to be independent from the life that I have, where I'm no longer subservient, I no longer want to be emancipated. Don't want to be a slave to my story and what was holding me back. Then I need to get this down, get a really good editor and a great publisher. And I didn't have the great editor or the great publisher. I didn't have them. I didn't know who they were. I simply went chapter by chapter by chapter. And then I started asking people who had succeeded. Who did you use for an editor? Who did you use for a publisher? And I already had experience with writing through the anthologies I was in. So when I chose my publisher, I chose a friend who I felt comfortable with and someone who had rock solid success. And then the editor I chose was from a friend of mine who'd struggled with traumatic brain injury.
Oh,
And
wow.
because of the complex PTSD in my life, when you go through grief and when you go through trauma, your brain doesn't quite connect the same way anymore. So
Yeah.
I didn't remember the dates. I had to ask my kids, when was it that this happened? What home do you remember being in? Do you remember what grade you were in? Because when Emily passed away, I thought my youngest son, Chance, was in Kelowna with me. And it was a few years later that my stepson, Joshua, said to me, "No, Mom, he was with me in Edmonton." And I argued. I'm like, "No." But the story was solidified in my brain because Chance was there within less than, 24, 48 hours.
Right.
I thought he was always there. I had completely forgotten that he went home back to Edmonton.
Because your mind and your
That's
heart was in such a disarray that whatever you thought, that became your reality. My
Mhm.
my next question for you is for people who don't know, I've written my memoir. It's sitting right here. It's not yet published. And in writing it, aside from the activity of writing and editing, which we have talked about personally, there was a certain point that I went through a major aha in my life as a result of sharing my story, as a result of going back and revisiting everything. What was that for you when you were going back and you were writing this and revisiting that and talking to people and kind of putting this all together? Was there some sort of aha or an additional healing moment for you in this, a catharticism? What was talk to us about that?
When I began to speak less to the characters in my life who are part of my past, right? When we go through a divorce, we still have them in our head.
Right.
And there's that feeling like y'all gonna make me lose my mind, right? Like, oh my gosh. Because there's a betrayal feeling, there's an abandonment feeling, all those feelings that I had, they were mine. I owned them. And yet I wanted to remember the good times. So I had to dissolve the things in my life that didn't turn out the way that I wanted them to turn out. I have an amazing sister-in-law now because of my relationship that I'm in now. I'd rather focus my attention on that relationship than try to grip and grasp from something that's no longer alive. That life is dead. Gotta let it go. And
Mhm.
and still rejoice in the memories. I've got some really wicked memories of my ex-sister-in-law. I won't mention them here. Um, I mean, know your limit, stay within it. And yet when I talk to my children about their auntie and I share those stories, they're like, "No way." I'm like, "Oh yeah. We had some good times. We had some really
That's the
good
next
times."
book. That's the next book.
Some things won't be written. Yeah, some things just they're not my story to tell. Well, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? And you know what? I've already got the title for the next story. Choose Joy, A Warrior's Guide to Victory.
I love it. I love it. So for people who don't know who Nancy is, what do you do? What things in life do you help people with, and things of that nature? And where can people learn more about Nancy?
Okay, if I were to fast forward to the next 2 weeks of what I've got scheduled, I'm helping mothers who have lost children. Some of the most powerful ways I'm helping women in that part of their life is things like we talk about overdose. There's also poisoning. So, fentanyl poisoning, when we take a drug that we don't know has another drug in it that kills us,
Mhm.
understanding the difference between overdose and poisoning. Helping men right now who are struggling in understanding how when they change who they are, they begin to attract the person of their dreams. We can keep on complaining about Mrs. Wonderful not being there or Mr. Wonderful being a dud, and we can change who we are. Pulling lots of tarot cards lately. People are like, "Oh, you're a psychic medium? That's cool." And then the energy healing. There's so many wonderful ways that I use energy healing. I'm putting together a beautiful workshop in regards to creating sacred space, as well as meditation, journaling, and writing. So it's a whole big, gotta dream big. Gotta
Yes.
dream big. Yeah.
I agree. So my last opportunity, my last question for you is this. You have a microphone to the world for a minute. And given what's going on in the world today, what's going on with people today, what would you say to people to get them to shift their perspective and to see things differently, see things positively, to be more part of the solution rather than problem? What are some things you would say to the world if you had a microphone right now to the entire world?
This morning when you woke up and you took a breath, that means you're alive. As long as you're breathing, you're living. And there is so much that you can do to help the world by focusing on your own healing. Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, we worry a lot about what other people are doing. And yet, if we can focus on our own healing, we create a ripple. And that's how generations change and evolve into a better way of being. If there is a better way of being that you can imagine, you can create it. Who doesn't want to create more joy in their world? Begin with you.
Bravo, bravo. Take a bow, take a bow, take a bow.
Thank you.
Where can people get a hold of you? I've got your Nance in Action, your YouTube page up on the screen. It's in the links of the show promo here. But where are some other places people can get a hold of you? I've got there also the link for the book, which they of course can get on Amazon. What other places can they find you?
Facebook is a great direct message. Always. Facebook is a great resource for a lot of really good reasons. And if you don't like the way that your Facebook is turning, then simply turn into some positive things. So Nance, you can find me on Facebook, Exponential Joy. That exponentialjoy.com is my website. Lots of fun. Yeah.
Awesome, my dear. I'm going to place you backstage. I'm just going to say a few more words, but don't go anywhere so I can still have a chat with you.
Thanks.
Thank you, my dear. You're awesome.
Thank you.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the book, Choose Joy, A Survivor's Guide for Hope. I cannot emphasize enough the power in the emotions shared in these pages, the vulnerability in these pages. Nancy just didn't even do it justice in what she's just talking about right here. She's very modest and she's very humble. This book is a real deep look inside, but it's also a really huge opportunity for you, wherever you're at in your journey, to begin looking at things with just a little bit different perspective. Can you imagine that if you had just a little bit less guilt in your life, a little bit more confidence in your life, a little bit more clarity in your life? What would your life look like if you got rid of one of your excuses? What would your life look like and feel like if you just started taking a little bit better care of yourself? All these things I teach are building blocks. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you go from 3 months, 6 months, a year, and now you're looking way over here, right? The GPS is pointed over there to hell and whatever and victimhood. You're going to wind up there. But if you're starting to focus over here on the possibilities and the opportunities and the vision, and like Nancy said, have a big enough why. That's my why. I went through a whole ton of shit to be sitting here in front of you today, to be able to do broadcasts like this, to change your life. And we can all do that. And then what happens is when you get stronger, like Nancy and myself, then you're able to help other people. And together we throw the little pebble in the pond and we create those ripple effects like Nancy talked about to make that impact. Because ultimately, here's the question you can ask yourself. If you died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? Who would show up and what would they say? And I asked myself that question back in 2008. And although I was very successful on paper, my answer was very simple. 10 or 15 people would show up and they would talk about all the stupid shit Chris did. And then at the very postscript of that, they would go, oh yeah, he was a homeless 7th grade dropout who changed the world. And then I went home and I wrote my eulogy, as Nancy talked about. And then I got to the crux of it. Christopher Rausch fought for what's right and what's fair. He risked for which that mattered. And he left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. And every day, God is my word, every day since then, even the bad days, what can I do today so that if today is my last day, I leave a legacy that I'm proud of? That's what having a big why is all about. not being a victim, not blaming, not living in guilt and shame and excuses and mediocrity, complacency, any other negativity you want to put on it. It's all about where it is that you're focusing, where it is you're focusing most. If I tell you to look around your room right now and tell me everything that's red, you're going to be like red, 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 red. And you're like, I got everything that's red, Chris. And I'm going to say, okay, tell me what was blue. But I was looking at red. The same thing in your life. If you're looking at everything that's negative, if you're watching the news, if you're looking at who's going to piss you off and how it's going to be a bad day, you're going to find it. But if you decide to choose joy, you decide to start reading a book a month, if you start deciding to listen to a podcast every couple of days, and you use those strategies consistently with discipline and intention, you can become strong. You can become a game changer. There is no doubt in my mind. I have coached thousands of people probably by now. Every single person, when they're ready to make those changes, they make them. So I encourage you. The book, the link is in the book. We've got Mary Kay in the house. What's up, Mary Kay? She says, I'm working, but jumped in to see you both. Thank you for being here. Mary Kay also says, such an important conversation. Thank you. Thank you. I hope I'm pronouncing your name always right. Nisangel says, hi, Christopher Rausch, and says, totally agree with you. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the links are in the show promo. There's Nancy's YouTube page, and there is the link to purchase the book. I encourage you to do that. If you do purchase the book, send me a copy of it. Maybe I might have a special gift for you as a thank you for doing that. All right. So we're back here, of course, in the normal raw and unscripted world next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we've got some amazing stuff coming up for you guys. So go out there, enjoy your day, and make it a little bit better for yourself and for everybody that is in your world. All right. Love you guys. Stay unstoppable. Cheers.